Hello comic book fans, this is your host Travis Collins, aka Duck Punch, and guess what? We're up here for another episode of Duck Punch Comic Reviews. I've got another 4 books here today. The Amazing Spider-Man number 640, DC Universe Legacies number 4 of 10, Secret Avengers number 4, and Justice Society of America number 42. Now, like we always do, we're going to get right on to the heart of things with a review of a book that was just painful to read. Amazing Spider-Man number 640, written by Joe Quesada and Paulo Rivera. Now, the hits just keep coming with this series. And by hit, I mean that I can't wait for this story arc to be over so we can get back to actual Spider-Man stuff, and not this completely inane and altogether stupid explanation to a question that nobody was asking. Now, in a continued sort of explanation of what happened during the now infamous One More Day retcon event of a couple years ago, it revealed that after saving Aunt May's life, Spider-Man and Mary Jane continue to deal with the aftermath of Peter's role as Spider-Man and his decision to reveal his identity to the world. The Kingpin sends another assassin to kill the Parkers, and again, Spidey's able to save the day. Barely. This sends him to see Doctor Strange with a request to undo his unmasking, which in turn causes Doctor Strange to have the most interesting conference call ever. This story arc continues to suck ass through a crazy straw, but I will give Quesada this. If he's going to use his power as editor-in-chief to try and force his vision of one of Marvel's top properties onto people, at least he has the guts to write this crap for himself. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is about the only good thing I can say here. Rivera's alright, art-wise, but this sort of quasi-pop art, retro style, it works better in theory than in practice, especially in heavily shadowed scenes. It's kind of hard to see what's going on. Thank God this story is almost done, because I don't think I can handle any more of this pain. One moment in time has been bad, from beginning to end. Period. This is just terrible. Next, on to something much more pleasant to read. DC Universe Legacies, number 4 of 10. Written by Len Wein, with artwork by, here we go, Scott Collins, Jose Luis Garcia Lopez, and the legendary Dave Gibbons. Now, there's a lot to be said for a book whose point is very straightforward, and it is hard to be much more straightforward than DC Universe Legacies. It's an exploration of the history of the DC Universe through the eyes of a retired cop. Each issue explores a different era of the canon, and each issue tries to capture the tone and feel that accompanied that era. Now, in this issue, the Silver Age of comics continues, with our narrator talking about the rise of the Sidekick, talking about the formation of the Justice League, and the return of some of the more classic heroes of the Golden Age. The issue ends, however, with an ominous note, looking forward to some of the darker stories of the 70s and 80s. Now, Len Wein is, as always, and has been on this book, just stellar. Rather than simply presenting the history, he turns it into a story told by an outsider, looking in. He doesn't go over every aspect of the history, but he really captures the drama and excitement that it must have felt like to read some of these classic stories when they came out. Now, unlike Brightest Day's litany of artists, the scope of this book actually seems to justify the inclusion of so many artists working here. And frankly, the book is better for it. Now, I say this almost every month. If you are at all interested in understanding what is going on in the DC Universe, this is a great title to pick up. And even if you're a longtime reader like me, it is still a hell of a lot of fun. I strongly recommend DC Universe Legacies. Go out and give this a shot. Now, up next, Secret Avengers number 4, written by Ed Brubaker, with art by Mike Deodato Jr. Now, Secret Avengers is to the other 3 Avengers books what filet mignon is to a fast food hamburger. There is no competition as to which one is better. With the still possessed Nova trying to unleash some sort of ancient evil on the universe, Steve Rogers is forced to use Nova's powers against him, while the rest of the team tries to stop his henchmen, as well as these giant tentacle monstrosity things that Nova has summoned up. Now, meanwhile, Ant-Man is still going around inside of the Shadow Council Citadel, which we still know very little about, and he ends up having to try and avert a nuclear suicide bombing run. Now, Brubaker is still solid here. I still love this book, but this is definitely not quite as good as as the last 3 issues. The ending feels really rushed. It's kind of like we just had to wrap this story up to get on to other things. Part of me wants to kind of chalk this up to Brubaker's style of long, drawn-out stories that use smaller story arcs to build up to a crescendo. See his run on Captain America. But with the other 3 Avengers titles vying for attention, it's really one of those situations where every single issue has to be on point. Every issue has to stand out. And if one doesn't, it's going to fall apart. Now, everything I said last month about Mike Deodato Jr.'s art can be said again here this month. He's good, but way too heavy on shadows. Seriously, there are times that Nick Fury looks like a floating head. I mean, sometimes it gets that dark. Now, again, while this is not the best output thus far, this is still a really good read, and definitely a book that fans of the Avengers should be reading. Last up this episode, Justice Society of America number 42 by James Robinson with art by Mark Bagley. Now, with Willingham now officially off of Justice Society, because apparently he couldn't keep up with the schedule, Robinson is back again to write this penultimate chapter of the JSA-JLA crossover, which is, now this issue is a vast improvement over his last JSA attempt. Big time improvement. At the end of JLA, number 47, Kyle Rayner shows up, and he is there to take down the Starheart by any means necessary. Of course, things get really complicated when the siblings of the children of Alan Scott, Jade and Obsidian, combine into one superpowered being and decide to go on the offensive. Meanwhile, it is revealed that not everything is as it appears to be, and that the power of the Starheart is way bigger than anyone could have guessed so far. And, of course, it's really ticked off. Now, the last time he wrote Justice Society, I always have trouble saying that, Justice Society, Robinson was rather ham-handed and clunky. From reading this issue, you would not have suspected it. This book reads like a well-oiled machine. He shows that he can get the characters, and he can move the story along to its conclusion. It's a very marked improvement, and I always try and praise marked improvements. Now, as always, Mark Bagley is one of those artists that people either like or they dislike. I tend to like him, but his spread pages of fight scenes tend to get really cluttered. This is a lot of green, a lot of black, a lot of bright lights shining. It gets really chaotic, which may be the point, but it's still kind of hard to see. The Dark Things, this little crossover storyline, has been really solid, except for a couple of hiccups. But now that it's almost done, I'm actually really excited to see what's going to happen afterwards. This has been a really good story. So there you go, guys. 4 more issues of 4 comics that came out on August 18th. I'm going to be back tomorrow with another installment, another 4. And as always, I love hearing from you guys. I try to respond whenever possible. Let me know what you think. And if there's something you think I skipped over or you disagree with my assessment, let me know that too. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a wonderful day.